Welcome back, Rare Coin Insider. Imagine holding what looks like an ordinary 1-cent coin in the palm of your hand, something most people would ignore, toss into a jar, or spin without a second thought. Yet hidden within that small copper-colored surface could be a story so fascinating, so unexpected, that it transforms this everyday object into something collectors dream about, something whispered about in rare coin circles as potentially worth an astonishing $73 million. And today we are diving deep into the mysterious world of the 2014 1-cent coin from the United States, a coin that at first glance appears completely normal, yet carries layers of history, design significance, production details, and rumors of extreme value that make it one of the most talked about modern pennies. To truly understand how a coin like this could even be associated with such an enormous value, we have to begin with its physical presence, the way it feels, the way it looks, and the specifications that define it, because every coin tells its story through its metal, its weight, and the mark stamped onto it during its creation. The 2014 1-cent coin is part of the long-running Lincoln cent series, which has been a staple of American currency since 1909, and by 2014, this coin had already undergone several design changes throughout its history, evolving with the times while still honoring its original purpose. The weight of this coin is approximately 2.5 grams, a standard that has been consistent for modern pennies since the composition changed in 1982 from primarily copper to a zinc core coated with a thin layer of copper, and this change was made due to the rising cost of copper, making it impractical to continue producing coins with a higher copper content. Despite this shift, the coin still maintains that familiar copper appearance, giving it a sense of continuity with earlier versions that collectors often admire. Now, as you turn the coin over in your mind, picture the obverse side, the front of the coin, where the portrait of Abraham Lincoln is displayed, a design that has remained a central feature for over a century. This portrait, originally created by sculptor Victor David Brenner, captures Lincoln in a dignified profile, facing to the right, with fine details that reflect both artistry and historical reverence. Above his head, you would find the word Liberty, a symbol deeply embedded in American identity, while to the right of the portrait, the year 2014 is clearly stamped, marking the coin's place in time. Just beneath the year, you will notice a small, but incredibly important detail, the mint mark, D, which indicates that this particular coin was produced at the Denver Mint. This tiny letter is one of the key factors that can influence a coin's rarity and desirability among collectors, because coins minted in different locations can have variations in production numbers, quality, and even errors that make certain versions far more valuable than others. On the reverse side of the coin, the design introduced in 2010 continues to appear, featuring a Union shield, a powerful symbol of unity and strength, representing the preservation of the United States as a single nation. The shield is detailed with vertical stripes and a horizontal bar across the top, with the words, E pluribus unum, inscribed above, meaning, out of many one, a phrase that captures the essence of the country's formation. Across the shield, you will see the denomination, 1 cent, boldly displayed, while the words, United States of America, frame the design, reinforcing the coin's identity. At this point, everything about the coin seems standard, predictable even, and that is exactly what makes the story so intriguing, because the vast majority of 2014 pennies are indeed ordinary, produced in massive quantities and circulating widely, yet within these millions of coins, there are whispers of rare variations, minting anomalies, and exceptional conditions that can elevate a single coin from everyday change to a collector's treasure. The idea of a 1-cent coin being worth $73 million may sound unbelievable, almost like a myth or an exaggeration, but in the world of coin collecting, also known as numismatics, value is not determined solely by face value or even metal content, but by a combination of rarity, demand, historical significance, condition, and sometimes even mystery. There have been instances where coins with unique errors or extremely limited production runs have sold for staggering amounts, capturing global attention and redefining what people think is possible in the realm of collectibles. When it comes to the 2014 D penny, much of the speculation around its high value revolves around the possibility of rare mint errors, such as double strikes, off-center strikes, or die variations that were not intended during the production process. These errors can create subtle or dramatic differences in the coin's appearance, and when discovered, they often become highly sought after by collectors who are willing to pay significant amounts to own something truly unique. But beyond errors, condition plays an equally crucial role, because a coin that has never been circulated, known as being in mint state, can be exponentially more valuable than one that has been worn down through everyday use. Professional grading services evaluate coins on a scale, taking into account factors like luster, surface preservation, strike quality, and overall appeal, and a top-graded coin can command prices far beyond what most people would ever expect for something so small. As the story of this coin continues to unfold, the combination of its modern origin, its connection to a historic series, and the possibility of rare variations creates a sense of intrigue that keeps collectors searching, examining, and questioning every detail, wondering if the next coin they come across could be the one that changes everything. And this is where things start to become even more fascinating, because the journey of a coin does not end at the mint. It travels through countless hands, across cities, through transactions both big and small, and somewhere along the way, a single coin can slip through unnoticed, waiting for the right person to recognize its true significance, to see beyond its ordinary appearance and uncover the hidden value within. The question then becomes, what exactly should you be looking for? What makes one 2014 D penny different from another? And how can a coin that was produced in the millions hold the potential to be worth such an extraordinary amount? And as we move deeper into this story, we begin to uncover the details that separate the common from the rare, the ordinary from the extraordinary, and the simple penny from a possible multi-million-dollar treasure. As we continue deeper into this fascinating journey, the mystery surrounding the 2014 D1 cent coin begins to shift from simple curiosity into something much more investigative, almost like a treasure hunt hidden in plain sight, because the real secret behind coins that achieve extraordinary value is not just their existence, but the tiny, often overlooked differences that separate a common piece from a legendary rarity. And in the case of this particular coin, those differences can be so subtle that only a trained eye, or an extremely observant individual, can recognize them. One of the first things serious collectors focus on when examining a coin, like the 2014 D penny, is the quality of the strike, which refers to how clearly and precisely the coin's design was impressed onto the metal during minting. A strong strike will show crisp details, sharp lines, and full definition in Lincoln's hair, the lettering, and especially in the shield design on the reverse, while a weak strike might appear slightly blurred or flat in certain areas. At first, this might seem like a minor detail, but in the world of numismatics, even the smallest difference in clarity can dramatically affect a coin's desirability and value. Then comes the concept of mint errors, which is where things start to get truly exciting, because errors are not supposed to happen, yet when they do, they create something unique, something that cannot be easily replicated, and therefore something that collectors chase with incredible enthusiasm. For the 2014 D penny, several types of potential errors have been discussed among collectors, including double die errors, where parts of the design appear duplicated due to a misalignment during the die creation process, and off-center strikes, where the coin is not properly aligned when struck, resulting in a design that appears shifted to one side. Another fascinating possibility is the presence of die cracks or die chips, which occur when the minting die begins to wear down or break slightly, leaving raised lines or unusual shapes on the coin surface. These imperfections, while technically flaws, can actually make a coin more valuable because they are indicators of a specific moment in the minting process, almost like a fingerprint that ties the coin to a particular die and production batch. But perhaps one of the most intriguing aspects of modern coins, like the 2014 D penny, is the idea of transitional errors or composition anomalies, where a coin might have been struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination or made from an incorrect metal composition. While extremely rare, such occurrences have been documented in the past, and when they are authenticated, they can command prices that seem almost unbelievable, sometimes reaching into the millions depending on their uniqueness and historical importance. As collectors search for these rare variations, they often rely on magnification tools, specialized lighting, and even digital microscopes to examine every detail of the coin, studying the texture, the edges, the alignment of letters, and the tiniest irregularities that could signal something extraordinary. It becomes a meticulous process, one that requires patience, knowledge, and a bit of luck, because even the most experienced collectors can go years without finding a truly remarkable piece. Now, beyond errors and variations, there is another crucial factor that elevates a coin's value, and that is its condition, often referred to as its grade. Coins are graded on a scale that ranges from heavily worn to perfect mint state, and within the highest levels, even the slightest imperfection can mean the difference between a coin being worth a few dollars or thousands, or in extremely rare cases, millions. A 2014 D penny that has been preserved in pristine condition, with full original luster, no visible scratches, and sharp, untouched details, could be considered a top-tier example, especially if combined with any unique characteristics. Professional grading organizations play a major role in this process, as they authenticate and assign a grade to the coin, providing collectors and buyers with confidence in its quality and legitimacy. Once a coin is certified, it is often sealed in a protective holder, preserving its condition and making it easier to trade in the collector market. But here is where the story takes an even more intriguing turn, because the idea of a $73 million valuation is not something that applies to just any 2014 D penny. It is tied to the concept of an ultra-rare, possibly one-of-a-kind specimen, something that stands apart from all others due to a combination of extreme rarity, perfect condition, and perhaps an extraordinary minting anomaly that has yet to be widely documented or fully understood. This is what fuels the excitement, the possibility that somewhere out there, maybe in a jar of spare change, a forgotten drawer, or even in circulation right now, there exists a coin that could rewrite the expectations of modern coin values. It is this sense of possibility that keeps collectors searching tirelessly, examining coins that others might overlook, driven by the hope that they might be the one to discover something truly historic. The history of coin collecting is filled with stories like this, where seemingly insignificant coins turn out to be incredibly valuable due to rare errors or unique characteristics, and these stories create a ripple effect, inspiring new collectors to join the hunt, to learn the details, and to pay closer attention to the coins they encounter every day. As we continue to explore the 2014 D penny, it becomes clear that its significance is not just about its potential value, but about what it represents, a reminder that even the most ordinary objects can hold extraordinary stories, that value can be hidden in plain sight, and that sometimes, all it takes is a closer look to uncover something truly remarkable. And as the journey unfolds further, we begin to explore the deeper historical context, the production numbers, the collector demand, and the real-world market activity surrounding this coin, revealing how myth, reality, and possibility intertwine in a way that keeps the legend of the 2014 D penny alive and growing. As we move further into the story of the 2014 D 1 cent coin, the discussion naturally shifts toward the reality of production numbers and how they contrast so sharply with the idea of extreme rarity, because on paper, this coin is anything but rare. In fact, the Denver Mint produced billions of pennies in 2014, and a significant portion of those carried the D Mint mark, meaning that in terms of sheer quantity, the 2014 D penny exists in massive supply, flooding circulation across the United States and beyond. This creates an interesting contradiction, because how can something produced in such enormous numbers ever be considered valuable, let alone potentially worth tens of millions of dollars? The answer lies not in the average coin, but in the exceptions, the outliers that break away from the norm and become something entirely different. In the world of coin collecting, rarity is not always about how many coins were made, but about how many coins exist with specific, unique characteristics. This is why collectors do not simply look for a date and mint mark, but instead search for combinations of features that set a coin apart from the rest. For the 2014 D penny, most examples you will find in circulation are worth exactly 1 cent, or perhaps a few cents more in uncirculated condition, and this is an important point to understand because it grounds the conversation in reality. Claims of extremely high values, such as $73 million, are not representative of the typical coin, but rather the hypothetical or extremely rare cases that capture attention and spark curiosity. Without this distinction, it would be easy to assume that every coin with this date and mint mark holds hidden fortune, which is simply not the case. However, the collector market operates on a different level, driven by demand, competition, and the desire to own something that few others possess. When a coin is discovered that has a unique error, an unusual feature, or an exceptional grade, it can quickly become the focus of intense interest. Auctions can drive prices higher and higher as collectors compete, sometimes pushing values far beyond what might seem reasonable to an outsider. This is how certain coins have achieved record-breaking sales, turning small pieces of metal into headlines around the world. The idea of a $73 million valuation likely stems from this kind of extreme scenario, where a coin would need to be not only rare, but historically significant, widely recognized, and heavily demanded by elite collectors. It would likely need to be a one-of-a-kind specimen, perhaps featuring a dramatic minting error or a composition anomaly that has never been seen before, combined with perfect preservation and authentication by top grading authorities. Another factor that adds to the intrigue is the role of speculation and misinformation in the modern age. With the rise of online platforms, social media, and video content, stories about valuable coins can spread rapidly, sometimes blending with exaggeration. A claim that a coin could be worth millions can easily evolve into a belief that it is worth millions, especially when presented without full context. This does not mean that valuable coins do not exist, but it highlights the importance of careful research and verification when evaluating such claims. Despite this, the excitement remains very real, because history has shown that extraordinary discoveries can and do happen. There have been cases where rare coins were found in everyday circulation, inherited collections, or even in old jars of change, leading to life-changing discoveries for those who recognize their value. These stories keep the dream alive, encouraging people to look more closely at the coins they encounter, and to learn the details that might reveal something special. The collector community surrounding Lincoln Cents is particularly active, with enthusiasts dedicating years to studying different dates, mint marks, and known varieties. They document discoveries, share information, and build catalogs of known errors, creating a constantly evolving body of knowledge that helps others identify potential rarities. Within this community, the 2014 D penny may not yet be widely recognized as a major rarity, but the possibility of undiscovered variations keeps it relevant and worth examining. It is also important to consider the broader historical context of the Lincoln Cent series. which has seen its fair share of famous rarities over the years, from early 20th century key dates to mid-century errors that have become legendary among collectors. These precedents show that even within a widely produced series, certain coins can rise above the rest and achieve iconic status, proving that rarity can emerge in unexpected ways. As we continue exploring this coin, the focus begins to shift toward practical guidance. What should you actually do if you come across a 2014 D penny? How should you examine it? What signs should you look for? And how can you determine whether it is something ordinary or potentially extraordinary? Because while the idea of a multi-million-dollar coin is exciting, the real value lies in understanding the process, learning the details, and developing the ability to see what others might miss. And this is where the journey becomes more personal, because anyone can participate, anyone can check their coins, anyone can learn the basics of identification and grading, and while the chances of finding an ultra-rare specimen may be extremely small, the process itself can be rewarding, educational, and even thrilling, turning everyday change into a source of curiosity and discovery. As the story continues, we will dive deeper into how collectors evaluate coins step by step, how market prices are actually determined, and what realistic expectations should be when it comes to the 2014 D penny, separating myth from fact while still keeping the sense of wonder that makes coin collecting such a fascinating pursuit. As we approach the final stretch of this journey, everything begins to come together: the history, the design, the production, the rumors, and the reality, forming a complete picture of what the 2014 D 1-cent coin truly represents, not just as a piece of currency, but as a symbol of how something incredibly ordinary can become the center of extraordinary attention. And at this point, the most important question becomes practical and immediate. What should you actually do if you believe you have found a special 2014 D penny, something that looks different, feels unusual, or simply stands out from the rest? The first step is observation, and not just a quick glance, but a careful, deliberate examination under good lighting, preferably using a magnifying glass or even a basic microscope if available. You begin by looking at the date and the mint mark, confirming that it is indeed 2014 with a D beneath it, and then you slowly move across the surface, checking Lincoln's portrait for any doubling in the features, particularly around the eye, the ear, and the lettering. Then you turn the coin over and study the Union shield, paying close attention to the lines, the spacing, and the clarity, because this is where many subtle errors or irregularities can appear. Next comes the edges and alignment, because an off-center strike will often be noticeable when the design is not perfectly positioned within the circular boundary of the coin. Even a slight shift can indicate something unusual, and while minor misalignments are not always valuable, more dramatic ones can attract serious interest. You also look for raised lines or cracks, which could indicate die damage, and any unusual textures or marks that do not match the standard appearance of the coin. Once you have identified something that seems different, the next step is preservation, because the biggest mistake people make is trying to clean the coin. Cleaning might seem like a good idea, especially if the coin looks dull or dirty, but in reality, it can significantly reduce its value, sometimes permanently. Collectors prefer coins in their original condition, even if they show signs of age or discoloration, because those characteristics are part of the coin's natural history. After preservation comes verification, and this is where professional grading services become essential. Sending the coin to a recognized grading organization allows experts to authenticate it, evaluate its condition, and determine whether it has any notable errors or unique features. This step transforms speculation into certainty, providing documented proof that can be trusted by collectors and buyers alike. Now, when it comes to the idea of market value, this is where expectations need to be balanced with reality. While the concept of a $73 million penny captures attention and fuels excitement, Such a value would require an extraordinary combination of factors that go far beyond what is typically seen in modern coins. In most cases, even high-grade or slightly unusual 2014 pennies are worth modest amounts, perhaps a few dollars or more depending on condition and minor variations. However, and this is what keeps the story alive, the market is driven by discovery. If a truly unique specimen were to be found, something never documented before, something that challenges existing knowledge and captures the imagination of collectors worldwide, then its value could rise dramatically, not just because of its physical properties, but because of the story attached to it, the rarity it represents, and the demand it generates. This is the essence of coin collecting, the intersection of history, art, economics, and human curiosity. A coin is never just metal, it is a moment in time, a product of a specific place, created under specific conditions, and carried through countless hands, each one adding to its unseen journey. The 2014 penny is part of that story, a modern chapter in a series that has been evolving for over a century, connecting the past to the present in a way that is both tangible and meaningful. And so, the idea of a 1-cent coin being worth millions is not just about money, it is about possibility, about the idea that value is not always obvious, that significance can be hidden, and that sometimes the most overlooked can hold the greatest surprises. Whether or not a $73 million example truly exists, the pursuit itself has value, because it encourages people to look closer, to learn more, and to appreciate the details that might otherwise go unnoticed. In the end, the 2014 1-cent coin stands as a reminder that even in a world driven by digital transactions and modern technology, there is still something deeply fascinating about physical currency, about holding history in your hand, about the idea that a simple coin can carry a story far greater than its face value. It invites you to pay attention, to question, to explore, and perhaps, just perhaps, to discover something that others have missed. And the next time you come across a small copper-colored coin, something you might have ignored in the past, you may find yourself pausing for just a moment longer, turning it over, examining its details, wondering about its journey, and asking yourself a simple but powerful question: could this be the one? Could this ordinary penny be hiding an extraordinary secret, waiting to be revealed?